Has anything shifted for you as a product marketing leader just in the past couple of years as the world has changed in terms of you and the strategic role of a product marketer? Have there been any shifts in how you view the customer experience, just your approach to product marketing in the last couple of years specifically?
Yeah, very much so, right? I mean, the whole marketing discipline has gone through a massive evolution in the last 10, 15 years. I mean, what used to be more of an art is now much more a science, right? There's way more metrics than anything else. In fact, it's probably the most measured discipline in a company other than sales, right? Which is really interesting. And that evolution has, of course, impacted product marketing. Now, there's a couple of observations there. Number one is that the value of product marketing is becoming very well understood, right? I mean, I used to spend half of my days just justifying my existence and the existence of my team, right? Back in, 15 years ago in the on-premises times. Now you don't have to do that. If anything, the conversation is always, yeah, we know we are under-resourced in product marketing, we'll try to get you more, right? That's kind of a very different tune. The other thing that has changed is the strategic importance of product marketing. I'm having a lot of conversations with companies where they start, like, we have a great product, but we need better messaging, right? We need better product marketing, which is kind of very refreshing because that was never the case. Where I see an ongoing challenge, and I don't have a great solution for that yet, is how do you measure that, right? How do you measure quality of messaging? How do you measure the impact of product marketing? Because, the secondary metrics are, of course, the marketing metrics, pipeline, conversions, revenue, right? Yeah, sure. We contribute to that, and we should all be paying attention to that. But that's not a leading indicator of product marketing, right? That's more like a trailing indicator of product marketing. And so that remains probably one of the areas that is to be figured out. Of course, if you have a very sophisticated consumer-oriented operation, you can do a lot of testing and you can measure that, and that helps. But in places like B2B marketing, where you might have 500 customers altogether, you can't do that kind of testing. You won't get those kind of metrics, and so that gets much trickier.
How much of your role is aligning and building trust with other executives on the team as a product marketing leader, kind of having to reach across the aisle and build rapport with the other executive leaders in the company? What does that look like today for you? And is that an important piece of kind of day to day?
I think it's almost a definition of product marketing, right? Product marketing inherently is in the middle of a lot of different groups. I mean, just the name, right? Product. So clearly we are interacting with the product teams. And that's not just the product managers, but often the engineering teams, data science teams, and other teams in the organization, right? And then there is the marketing side, where clearly we are interacting with the demand generation team and the branding teams because they all need our input, right? They all need the messaging and the content that product marketing creates and the strategy that product marketing creates. In a well-run company, that goes beyond that, right? Because usually you have other type of other parts of organizations that interact with product marketing as well. Sales is a very obvious one, and a lot of product marketers obviously interact with sales very closely. But I'm having discussions with support. I'm having discussions with customer success teams. I'm having discussions with IT. So that gets pretty exciting, right? Recruiting. I actually had several conversations with recruiting just in the last couple of weeks, right? About how do we better pitch the company in our recruiting efforts. And that gets pretty exciting, right? Because it shows you the pivotal role that product marketing plays in an organization.
Where does retention play into just goals or things that you look for, just customer retention? Because that clearly, I could see it being an indicator at some point in the journey, but how much do you pay attention to that as a product marketing leader?
Yeah, I mean, retention is huge, right? Because retention is not only the kind of the recurring revenue that we all want, but it also provides a platform for upsell. Because if you are able to go back to your existing customers and sell them either more units or more products, additional products, it's a great market, right? Because you have a captive audience that you can communicate to very well. And so that's very critical. Retention itself is also very critical because you want ultimately that your customers understand the value they are getting. And very often, it's not a secret, customers usually use a fraction of the capabilities that a particular product can deliver, right? And so to be able to educate them about some of the additional opportunities, about the data that they are gathering, and the power of all of that is also part of the product marketing remit.
What's the persona of the motive buyer? Like, who is that customer?
Yeah, it's, the typical personas are, of course, organizations that have fleet operations, right? So they have vehicles of some type. And usually it's the fleet manager. Sometimes it's the boss of the fleet manager, which might be somebody like COO. Sometimes it's the safety manager, depending on where, from which kind of direction the company comes to become our customer.
So in terms of, in this kind of B2B world that you're in, that you're certainly playing in, that these buyers can be elusive, right? And they're often making decisions in groups and they're hard to engage with. And just curious about your approach in terms of just ABM and, how you're doubling down on the customer experience or doubling down on prospect experience, because that's such an interesting world. Yours is even more niche. You're trying to reach very specific people in charge of specific parts of the business. And so I'm just curious about your approach there to connecting with those personas and
I'll
and
start
how you
with
do
correcting the word niche, because the physical economy represents 50% of the GDP. So
Very good point. Touche. Indeed. Yeah, you're right.
There's a lot of them. But to answer your question, obviously, testing is very important, right? And testing can be done on many levels, and often it's kind of a function of the sophistication of the marketing stack that you have in place, how much you can automate testing, how much you can increase the frequency and granularity of your testing, right? I'd be lying that, if I was saying, we have everything figured out, like, Amazon probably does, right? They've been optimizing test stack for 3 decades, so they're probably a little bit ahead of us. But, we do testing, and there's valid testing when you just call up a, dozen customers and ask them specific questions. We do customer surveys, and that's very successful because we have a relatively large number of customers, right? Over 120,000 customers. And so it's not that hard for us to get 1,000 responses. But we are also increasingly doing online testing on the website, from anything from banners and headlines to see what resonates better. All the way to some of the customer communication where, the website is really more for prospects, right? Then you have kind of the customer areas like the help center and others where we test as well. So that's more the digital type of testing.
Wow. And so with 120,000 customers, these are global customers, right?
Actually, we operate
US?
Primarily in North America. So those
Okay.
are primarily, transportation is pretty local, right? You drive on roads. And so,
So US, Canada, Mexico. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Got it. All right. Awesome. That's super cool. So in terms of the marketing efforts in North America, again, you've got Spanish speaking countries, you've got, Canada just above us, but how much do you spend on just the marketing approach? Is it going to decentralize where there's folks in these areas that are focused on those customer segments in those areas? Do you approach high level? Okay, this is the messaging in South America, and this is in Mexico rather, right?
Yeah, that's a good question. I see the difference between the market segments in terms of size. So I'd say the value proposition, something like driver safety or tracking and telematics is pretty much the same for US and Canada or Mexico or probably in every country in Latin America. But there's a big difference between small business and a large business, right? And that's where we see very different approaches in both marketing and then the overall go-to-market. So in a small business, imagine that it's a tiny business, maybe 2-truck operation, right? And that's all they do. The business owner, decision maker happens also to be the driver or maybe the person who kind of does the paperwork in the back office. And so the marketing is focused more on the immediate benefit you get very quickly. It just helps you. The deal is usually a very short type of cycle, right? Whereas, our enterprise customers, companies with 1,000, and more vehicles fleets, it's a totally different ballgame, right? Because now you have all the different decision makers that are involved in making the decision. The buying decision is pretty significant, right? You are not talking about a few $100s every year. You are
Right.
talking about thousands and thousands of dollars. And so it's a classical enterprise sale at that point, and you need marketing that can address the different personas. You need to understand what their particular concerns are, and you need to really lean into, all right, this is where they are now, right? Because they don't have a completely green field, and this is how they need to add some of our capabilities to kind of augment what they are already doing today, right? And so it becomes a much more sophisticated type of marketing message and sales approach.
Hey everyone, thanks for watching. This segment is brought to you by Salesforce. Salesforce brings marketing and engagement together. If you want to learn more, head over to salesforce.com/marketing. And please subscribe to this channel for more marketing insights from the world's best marketing leaders across the Fortune 500 and beyond.